Hey, this is Kim Levin, and this is my response to Lambert's professor video. It's a 2-1-1 response. The first quote I selected was, "The old-style classroom, grounded in spoken lectures and reading lists, is becoming obsolete. Images now dominate a new style of teaching in which visual, audio, and interactive formats rule, often trumping words as the dominant means of communication." The second quote I selected was that "They don't read books," says Birnbaum. Many are not very good writers either. It's too late for Expose, Harvard's required expository writing course, to fix it. Whenever I have had great writers as students, they were avid readers as kids." My response to the first quote is that I agree with the statement. Some content needs to be shown in an image or physical structure instead of being left to the imagination. I consider myself a very visual learner. The majority of my course load requires a lot of visual learning and instruction, such as my consumer textiles class, basic foods, and even this class. In textiles, my teacher brings in lots of fabric samples for us to touch and feel in order to differentiate between different materials. Foods class requires cooking, and my teacher often demonstrates how to properly use certain tools. Also, a lot of recipes come with pictures of the meal so that you can compare your end result to what it's supposed to look like. Although I consider including visual components in lessons very beneficial, I don't think they should overtake the entire lesson. I prefer classes that have a balance between visual and audible content. I also like when class notes are outlined based on the lecture so that it's easier to follow along as opposed to blindly writing down what I think might one day be included on a test. To the second quote, I also agree with what Birnbaum said about our generation being terrible writers and that better writers tend to read more often than those who don't. I have no idea who taught some people how to spell or write, but it really irks me when people don't use grammar and punctuation properly. I didn't enjoy reading as a kid because I wasn't very good at it, but I did it begrudgingly because it was part of my homework assignments and it had to be done. Over the years, my reading skills improved, and now I enjoy it if the sitting is right. I think that reading is extremely important, particularly for young students, because good authors model proper writing skills. Reading is also important for recognizing how certain words are spelled. The more you see and recognize a word in written form, the more likely you'll be to spell it and use it correctly later. After this passage, Birnbaum commented on how he had 4 novels on his reading list for his students to read over the course of the class, and he was flabbergasted that his students were complaining about having to read one of those books in a week. I think that a lot of teachers forget that their class isn't the only thing students have to worry about all day. Students have other classes that assign homework and other readings, and some people find themselves having to flip between 3 different books within the same week. Therefore, I don't think he's very justified in calling his students lazy for complaining about the amount of reading he assigns, because that would be a lot of work to do on top of having to take other classes too. The question I have in response to this article is that if a picture is worth 1,000 words, why waste your own? And the example that I came up with was that the Barnes & Noble in the town I grew up in was one of the only places in town that stayed open past 8 p.m., so that's where my friends and I tended to hang out on weekends. My family also went there a lot on Sundays after eating lunch at a pizza place attached to the same shopping center, and I loved it. I could spend all day in a library or a bookstore, and something about them just relaxes me. That's the end of my 2-1-1 response to Lambert's professor video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks. Bye.